Everyone, it's Froggy, and I'm back again with another episode of Will a Wonderful World. So, let's go ahead, open this up, and
내 탓이야. 바보같이.
Okay. Just this? This is the only one? You're alone? Alright. Port of Busan, near Warehouse 23. About 40 people were there, lying, standing, running. The fishermen, who were up early for work, had gathered around when they realized that something big had happened. The reporters, who had heard some tips, were huddling with them, hoping to catch any newsworthy material that could make a career. But the only two people who knew what happened had already left the scene. The ambulance was traveling as fast as it could while trying to remain steady. Lieutenant King was lying on the seat opposite of me. He was still unconscious. The medic said that he was basically asleep and that there was no need to worry. I wasn't surprised after all. I had intentionally avoided his critical spots earlier. Maybe after the nap he would be even more relaxed. Tired. I felt so tired. First, I had to knock out a mob of gangsters. Then I had been threatened by Choi Johan. And then I still had to fight the lieutenant. I hadn't slept the whole night. Still, I had so many questions in my head that I couldn't rest at all. Why would Lieutenant King attack me? And how had he become so strong, like another person completely? What kind of secrets had the lieutenant been hiding? Furthermore, this bald-headed, muscular man who was lying between us due to loss of blood. Who was he? Considering the situation with the lieutenant, I began to find this big man suspicious too. I quietly took a syringe from a tray near us and hid it, just in case one of them suddenly woke up and tried to stab me with it like a maniac. His veins. The medic mumbled something while trying to give the big man an IV. Suddenly, the ambulance took a sharp turn left and the driver slammed on the brakes to slow down. I heard a few curses from the driver's seat. The ambulance started again, and we noticed that the needle had slashed the muscular man, that there was a deep cut in his arm. Strangely, though, there was no blood coming out of the cut at all. Transfiguration. What? After the Cold War ended, there were still plenty of active undercover spies and intelligence agents in both the US and Russia. Transfiguration at the time was the main technique adopted by spies to lose someone on their tail. Transfiguration includes more than just changing looks. Changing the color of the outfit, putting sand in the shoes to alter the gait are all common tricks to help reinforce the disguise and fool a less experienced counterintelligence officer. In 2014, the Russian counterintelligence agency uncovered over 290 foreign spies in Russian soil. However, being exposed did not necessarily mean that one would be arraigned or arrested. Both the Russians and the Americans have similar approaches when dealing with such situations, though the exchanging of captives through diplomatic channels or simply deporting the apprehended agents. There we go. I stared at the red operating sign in the ER. I was trying to remember the documentaries about transfiguration that I had seen in the police academy. Transfiguration was a skill that not only could change someone's looks, but even one's figure. A transfiguration expert could wear a disguise that was good enough to fool anyone farther than 20 centimeters away. This was my first time ever witnessing it in such close distance. It was so shockingly real. The bodysuit had different thickness in different areas. The thicker parts perfectly resembled the texture of bulging muscles. The suit was also completely skin-tight, Once put on a person, leaving no gaps between the suit and the wearer's skin, preventing people from sensing anything unnatural by contact. It was very difficult to replicate the texture of real skin on the suit, though. Most people who wore it to transfigure themselves would be exposed when people touched their skin. However, this female senior officer with a perfect body was brave enough and skilled enough to go undercover in a violent gang, all while pretending to be a shirtless meathead. It simply meant that she must be a master among masters in Transfiguration. The people in Unit 4 were practically superheroes. I took out a pack of tissues from my pocket and calmly wiped off the blood coming out of my nose. Not only was this my first time seeing somebody using Transfiguration, it was also my first time seeing a naked, gorgeous woman like this. Lieutenant Kang had told me before that Officer Ji Yeon had never attended the police academy, so she was even younger than me. More importantly, she also had a full head of shining, long, and straight black hair. She was essentially a goddess from my dreams. From now on, I would be able to spend time with a senior officer like this every day. I, Chang Jian-min, could die a happy man any time now. Someone had just come out of the operating room. It was a young nurse. She ran towards me as I was the only person in the hallway. "Are you a family member of the patient?" I nodded my head, shook it, and then nodded it again. "She has lost too much blood. We need at least 1200 cc's more of transfusion, but we are running out of blood. There haven't been enough donations recently. Our blood bank doesn't have enough blood in her type in storage. We are also having a shortage of another type too. I think it is... Oh, right, it was type A. What is Officer Ji-yeon's blood type?" "Type O." What was my blood type again? I remembered I had checked it before. Let me think. Yes, it was type A. Lieutenant Kang, who had been asleep since we got to the hospital, was suddenly standing behind me. "Mine is type B." The nurse looked sympathetic. "I'm sorry, but neither of your blood types is a match. I'll have to go and call another hospital. I hope it's not too late." A few minutes after she hurried away, the sign went off. The doctor slowly pushed open the doors to the operating room. Everything seemed to be moving in slow motion, and the door looked like it was as heavy as a mountain. "I'm so sorry." I held my head in my hands, staring at the floor. I couldn't breathe. It was all because of my little trick. If I hadn't shot her, if only I were a better police officer, she would still be alive. Chang Jung-min. Alright, let's start it up. Okay, let's try that. Swap in the blood types. The nurse looked at me. "In this case, we can only take 400 cc's from you. But 400 cc's isn't enough. I'll draw the blood from you first and go call another hospital later. I hope it won't be too late." I watched as the nurse hurried away, and then I realized Lieutenant Kang was gone too. Half an hour later, the sign went off. The doctor slowly pushed open the door to the operating room. Everything seemed to be moving in slow motion, and the door looked like it was as heavy as a mountain. I'm so sorry. Held my head in my hands, staring at the floor. I couldn't breathe. Lieutenant Kang had just rushed back in with a few colleagues. He must have found some people with matching blood types. After hearing the doctor's words, he angrily kicked a hospital bed in the hallway. Yes, they were too late. Okay. Let's try that. Because type O, I think, can go with anyone. I think. Yeah. The nurse looked at me. In this case, we can only take 400 cc's from you, plus the last 400 cc's of blood type O in storage, and it might be enough. We will do our best. After she had drawn my blood, Lieutenant Kang and I both sat on the long bench in the hallway. The air was filled with anxiety. But all we could do was wait. An hour later, the sign went off. The doctor walked out, saw us, and rubbed his eyes. The operation was a success, but the patient has lost a lot of blood, and we're not sure when she will wake up. In the worst-case scenario, I clenched my fist. Lieutenant Kang's breathing was getting louder and heavier, too. She might fall into a vegetative state. Still a C. Okay. Blood type A. Blood type B. We've got blood type O. Blood type A. We'll try that. Great. Both of your blood types are a match. We'll take 400 cc's from each of you, plus the last 400 cc's of type O blood in storage, and it should be enough. I'll draw the blood from you both immediately. She gently pushed a needle into my arm. I watched as my blood slowly filled a bag, thinking about how it was going to save her life. You have been in my unit for a while now. I never had a chance to tell you something. Lieutenant Kang, who had his blood drawn earlier, leaned on the long bench next to me and spoke to me. Considering what I had accomplished today, was he going to reward me with something? To tell me something, could it be? You are very good. You are the best new recruit I've ever seen. Unifor is so lucky to have you. I just couldn't stop my imagination. He took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth. But then he must have realized that he couldn't smoke here, so he took it out and put it back in the pack. Never be late again. If you are, I'll have you transferred. Alright. Well, there we go. I'm glad we got to save a life today. Again. He saved a few lives at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.